Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. A quote from the President Muhammadu Buhari's Easter message to Nigerians as he appeals to everyone not to lose hope of a brighter future for the country. The President says he is confident that Nigeria would overcome its challenges and become a great country. He, however, remains concerned about the attacks by terrorists, bandits and other criminals in parts of the country, and has asked the people to intensify prayers for peace and security to return to the affected places. Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You can follow us right now on m.channelstv.com for live stream, and on Facebook as well. We've got all our social media platforms covered. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV and use the hashtag State of the Nation. Let's get your thoughts in. In the meantime, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, has signed into law the Minimum Wage Repeal and Reenactment Act 2019. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Senate, Senator Issa, disclosed this to State House correspondents on Thursday in Abuja, the nation's capital. According to him, the President expects that Nigerian workers and the Nigerian Labour Congress will show more commitment to work. What does this mean to the Nigerian worker? Will the increase in minimum wage stand the test of time? What if states are unable to pay the new minimum wage? What then? We'll look at all this in just a moment. Justice Walter Onoren has rejected the judgment of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the CCT, which convicted him of 6 counts of false declaration of assets preferred against him by the federal government. Shortly after the judgment delivered on Thursday, the judge filed a notice of appeal at the Court of Appeal in Abuja to challenge the ruling of the tribunal. We will analyze the judgment of the tribunal much later on the show. It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation. Organized labor has commended the President, Muhammadu Buhari, for assenting to the national minimum wage. The Senate and the House of Representatives had earlier signed the 30,000 naira minimum wage proposed by the tripartite committee set up by the President after more than a year of negotiations, greeted by protests and strikes conducted by labor itself. Issa Aremu is the National Executive Council NEC member of the NLC, also the General Secretary, Textile Workers Union. He joins me from our Abuja studios to analyze the issues of labor and the wage increase. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us at this time. Let me get your views on this. Your breakthrough took over a year of painstaking deliberations with the government on the new minimum wage for workers in the country. But despite the strikes and protests, did you expect this to happen at the rate it did?
Well, good evening, Gimba, and it's a pleasure for me to be invited to your platform. I think you've said so that it's been a long road to the new minimum wage. But you can't say that we are overexcited the way it happened. I mean, I think the NSC has said so. It's quite commendable that the President eventually assented to the bill. But don't forget that we've been waiting for this for the past 8 years. The last minimum wage was 2010, and ideally we ought to have run 5-year cycle to review the minimum wage in the country. But better late than never. This is the 5th minimum wage to be assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari. You know, we started the first minimum wage in 1981, the second one 1991, then year 2000, the third one, 2010, the fourth one. This is the 5th one. So I think the best commendation should rather go to organized labor for the persistence, for the consistency to improve the lot of the working people. But we also commend the President, you know, for assenting to that. And it shows that wherever there's presidential will, there will be the presidential will to improve the lot of the workers. Again, the National Assembly, you know, we should also commend them because it's all the stakeholders that have got this to be in place. And I think the outcome of this protracted negotiation, which led to the new minimum wage of 30,000, is of benefit to Nigeria economy as a whole, not just the workers. Of course, the workers, have to survive in an economy that is facing problem of inflation, of course, devaluation of the currency. In fact, in real terms, I can say that the 30,000 that we have now is far less than what we had for 18,000 in 2010, for obvious reasons of the twin problem of devaluation and inflation in the country. This new minimum wage, whatever rate you use, is less than $100 per month compared to when we had 18,000, which was then about around $10, per month.
So
but
if I may just butt in there, if I may just come in, my apologies, if I may just come in, this has been a long drawn battle, as you rightly submitted there, but some hypotheses say that this is going to be a tough one, based on the fact that, as you said, this is less than $100, according to your submission, it's less than $100, the minimum wage. So what if states are unable to pay? Because when it was at 18,000 naira per for the minimum wage, a lot of states had the situation whereby they were unable to pay or had lacked the capacity to pay. But this time, can they meet it? When you look at the past and see that the government actually came out with bailouts for them.
Well, Gimba, I hope I got substantial part of your questions, but I think we have already crossed that bridge, Gimba, this is a negotiation that took effectively 18 months, to carry out, and we have all the stakeholders represented in the presidential committee. For the first time, we had the 7 state governors who are on this presidential committee. We have organized private sector. We have the federal government, of course, we have organized labor, we have the organized employers association. I think we have crossed the bridge about whether there is an issue of ability to pay or not. Don't forget that the 30,000 minimum wage, which labor accepted now, is actually a compromise, because our proposal, it was 57,000 naira. So it was through the process of negotiation that we have to come down to 30,000. Which you also know that a worker, with his wife, with 4 children, a minimum earner, we still have to struggle to survive within 30,000 naira. So this already a compromise. I don't think we need to go back to the story of those who are unable to pay because they couldn't pay 18,000 naira. 18,000 naira, some of them, if you make it 8,000, they wouldn't still pay. There are some bad employers, including, sadly, some state governors who are more or less slave traders. They are slave masters. They are not the employers as you know them to be. I think you should leave that challenge to the organized labor to engage those employers. And don't also forget that this minimum wage is not just for the public sector. It's not just for federal and state employees. It's for also private sector employees. So you can't talk of inability to pay in the context of companies that are, declaring profit in spite of the challenges we have in the economy. I think we have already crossed that bridge, because what...
Okay, Mr. Aremu, if you say so that we have indeed crossed that bridge, yes. But what concerns are there in your view again, such that this minimum wage is not seen to be eroded, especially when weeks before now, the APC leader, Bola Tinubu, at his colloquium, asked the government not to increase taxes? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead. I think you need to land on it. Yeah.
Yes, I was just asking you, because of the challenges that you just mentioned now, what would it be for you such that this new increase in wages doesn't seem to be eroded at some point? Because Bola Tinubu, the APC leader, he did come out during his colloquium to ask the government not to increase taxes. What's your views to that?
I think it's highly commendable on the part of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. I think he is, as a statesman, he knows better that already not just Nigerian workers, but Nigerians are already coping with challenges of cost of living, high cost of living, problem of devaluation of currency, the problem of inflation, and for you to now implement policies that will further, raise the price level, and it's completely, unacceptable. And I think he also offer concrete solutions that we need to raise the revenue base. We need to be more aggressive to make sure that the net, capture those who have the capacity to pay but are already not paying. Don't also forget that we need tax justice in this country. Only the working people pay taxes. There are few richer people in this country who are really not paying. I mean, it's a sad commentary that people own a lot of properties in an economy in which 70% of our people live below poverty line. They don't pay good property taxes as they should pay. So I think it's quite commendable what he has said. But what I also wanted to say, Gimba, is that if you listen to serious economists who have discussed the state of Nigeria economy, including the central bank, they've agreed the best way for you to revive Nigeria economy is to improve the purchasing power of the working people. I'm from textile industry. One of the factors that also, made our sector to be depressed, apart from energy crisis, smuggling, is also low purchasing power. Nigerians now buy second-hand clothes, bend down boutique instead of buy African print, which I put on here. They won't buy if they are not well paid. So what I'm trying to say is that I think we should stop seeing workers' pay as a cost item. We should also see it as the basis to revive the economy, because working people's pay, they spend it to buy basic goods and services, with which, private sector will be able to be turned around. So what I'm saying here is that I think statesmen know very well that this is the time to reinflate the Nigeria economy. This is the best time to make sure more money is in the pockets of Nigerians. And I commend both the finance minister and even the vice president, who have already been cautious to say, hey, IMF, wait a bit. You don't ask us to further inflict more hardship on our people by increasing the prices of petroleum products. I mean, under the so-called return of subsidy. I think this is the time for us to return back, put the people at the center of development.
If I may come in on that very spot, on that very point, my apologies, but on that very point, what then is Labour's views to subsidy removal? Will you stage a protest on that?
Hey, my friend, the issue is not Gimba, I don't think we derive pleasure in Syria protests. I think the real issue is to challenge those forces, including the IMF, who keep on repeating the same, mantra, of removal of subsidy. We'll be on this game for long, and I think we should change the narrative. I think the first thing we need to do is to get our refineries working. We need to improve on supply. We need to make sure we stop importation of petroleum products. It's a scandal. This is the only OPEC member that has no functional public refineries. I think that's where the debate should be. That's what we should discuss about. This subsidy we talk about is about prices posted on us due to devaluation of currency, due to demurrage that we incur at the port, because we cannot, bring back. We cannot really supply petroleum products we should do. I think the best bet is to make sure refineries work domestically, and that's where the focus should be, on a sustainable basis. So I think the issue is not about whether we are going to go on protest or not. The issue is for the nation to make sure that it's high time that we make sure we add value to crude oil that we have in this country, have refineries, and get our people to be employed. Because for now, we're importing petroleum products. We're also exporting jobs. We are creating jobs for those refineries that are working abroad. I mean, this is the way we should focus the debate. But back to the issue of minimum wage, I think the bottom line is very clear that we commend the president for putting his signature on the 5th national minimum wage. And I think the challenge is to make sure that we get this implemented. The same way we had the tripartite approach to bring about the new wages, we should also have tripartite approach to make sure we ensure implementation. And don't also forget that this is just the minimum pay. Many enlightened employers know that the workers cannot be productive based on this rate. And many of them, through collective bargaining process, they've improved a lot of their members as the way it should be. And I think we should go ahead with that. Then on the last note, let me also put this point, Dimba. I think we have a National Wages and Salary Commission, of which I'm also a labor, commissioner. I serve on that commission. I think we should empower that commission to be able to work on a sustainable basis in a way that we don't have dramatized cycle of wage review, 5 years, 8 years. This should be done periodically. United Kingdom mentors in this business of minimum wage. They started minimum wage in 1987. We started in 1981. Today, it's not dramatized. Quarterly, they review wages. In fact, they've even disaggregated. They have different rates for young workers. They have different rates for even students who work during holidays. I think this
I
one we
believe,
should allow the commission
I
to
also
be doing
stand
in a
with you, and I believe that will be looked
way
into.
that
But
can lead to
I must,
unnecessary expectation.
thank you so much
of all
indeed.
the
Issa
market
Aremu
actors.
is a National Executive Council, NEC member of the NLC, also General Secretary, Textile Workers Union. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us.